Out here, on this lonely stretch of New Mexico highway, the road goes in two directions, but only one of them promises you'll see the sunrise. The eastbound lane was a ribbon of black, almost always deserted. The westbound lane, however, was a different story. It pulsed with a strange, constant life after the sun went down. Sometimes I'd just stare out the glass, counting the headlights. On a slow night, 30 an hour. On a busy one, 50 or more, all heading west toward the California border, all chasing a dream. My coworker, Marco, just shrugged when I brought it up. Everyone's running to something better, Leo. That's the way of the world. But I started watching more carefully, and I noticed something deeply unsettling. Not a single one of those cars ever stopped. With that volume of traffic, you'd expect someone to need gas, a coffee, or a restroom break. But they didn't. They just flowed past, a river of light in the darkness, each car maintaining a perfect, steady speed. They never even slowed. On my 10th shift, a sedan finally pulled in from the eastbound lane, the first car I'd seen from that direction in what felt like forever. The driver was a woman, maybe mid-40s, and she looked like she'd been through hell. She didn't get out right away. She sat at the pump, her hands clenched on the steering wheel, her shoulders shaking with sobs. When she finally stumbled inside to pay, her eyes kept darting back to the westbound traffic. I asked if everything was all right. She grabbed my forearm, her grip surprisingly strong, her nails digging into my skin. "Don't ever go west at night," she whispered, her voice cracking. "If you get on that road after dark, you can't get off. You can't even pull over. You just drive until dawn. And most of us, ... we don't last that long. I only escaped because I drove through the median strip." I hadn't even noticed the entire passenger side of her car was mangled, the metal torn open like a can. Before I could ask what she was talking about, she was gone. "My name is Leo, and for the past 3 weeks, I've worked the graveyard shift at the Desert Sun fuel station on Highway 77, just west of nowhere. The money is good for this part of the state, almost $17 an hour with the overnight premium. The duties seemed straightforward. Man the pumps, restock the coolers, brew fresh coffee, and lock the doors at dawn. Marco, the guy who worked the evening shift from 3 p.m. to 11 p.m., had been here for 6 years. He mentioned the night shift had a high turnover rate, but he said it as if people just got tired of the silence and quit. On my very first night, he passed me a worn, laminated index card. On it were 6 rules, typed out on what looked like an old typewriter. Management's little quirks, he said, though the card was clearly homemade, sealed in peeling packing tape. Follow them. To the letter. Don't get creative. I asked him what would happen if I didn't. He gave me a long, hard look, then turned and walked out the door without another word. That was 3 weeks ago. Now, I'm beginning to understand why no one stays on the night shift. Now, I know why Marco refused to answer my question. The rules themselves seemed arbitrary, almost nonsensical. Between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m., keep the exterior canopy lights on the dusk setting. Never brighter, never dimmer. If a customer inquires about the westbound route, inform them it's temporarily closed for geological surveys. Do not offer further explanation. Never go outside between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. If a customer requires fuel, use the transaction drawer. No exceptions. If you hear a tapping sound on the storeroom door, pay it no mind. The delivery manifest is on the office clipboard. Anything not on the list is not a delivery. At precisely 3:13 a.m., turn off the store's satellite radio. Keep it silent for exactly 10 minutes. Do not use headphones or any other audio source during this time. If a customer needs to make a phone call, tell them the landline is for outgoing emergencies only. Direct them to the public call box 1 mile east. The card offered no reasons. Marco offered no reasons. And when I called the district manager on my second day to ask about the strange guidelines, the woman on the other end of the line was silent for a moment before telling me she wasn't aware of any special protocols for our location. She suggested I take it up with my shift supervisor. That was Marco when I pressed him on it again. He just said the rules helped the overnight shift go by without any trouble, and that was all I needed to be concerned with. Then he showed me the inventory system, the location of the circuit breakers, and which snacks had the highest profit margins. My first week was eerily quiet. The station is so isolated you can see headlights from miles away, a tiny spark in the immense darkness. You can watch them grow, and you learn to feel whether they'll turn in or not long before they arrive. Most didn't. The westbound traffic was a relentless, silent parade. Coupes, minivans, the odd pickup truck, all cruising at exactly the speed limit, none of them deviating. The eastbound lane, by contrast, was a void. It would sit empty for an hour, 2 hours. Then a single vehicle would appear, always driving erratically, either too slow or dangerously fast. Those were always the ones who stopped. On my 8th night, I started a logbook. I noted the time, direction, and vehicle type of every customer. From 11 p.m. to 6 a.m., I had 17 customers. Every last one of them was traveling east, and every last one of them looked haunted, some visibly trembling, others with that 1,000-yard stare you see in soldiers or accident survivors. None of them wanted to make small talk about where they were coming from. I was refilling the soda cooler at 1:47 a.m. when the first truly strange incident occurred. A man entered from the pumps, maybe in his 60s, with a weathered face and a dusty Albuquerque Isotopes cap. He walked directly to the counter, his eyes scanning nothing. He didn't pick up a drink or a bag of chips. "The westbound route open?" he asked, his voice raspy. I felt my chest tighten. "Rule 2. The route is closed for geological surveys," I recited. "Why is that?" "That's just the situation." He stared at me, his gaze intense, and I saw a flicker of something in his eyes. Was it recognition? Or maybe it was relief. "Good lad," he muttered. "Best keep it that way." He turned and left without another word, without buying a single thing. At 2:15 a.m., I heard it. A tapping on the storeroom door. 3 distinct taps, spaced perfectly apart. The kind a delivery driver would make. I started walking toward the back, instinctively reaching for the key, but then I froze, remembering Rule 4. I stopped and double-checked the manifest on the office clipboard. The next Frito-Lay delivery wasn't until Thursday morning. It was a Tuesday. The tapping came again. 3 taps. Same rhythm. Same intensity. I walked back to the front of the store and tried to pretend I was busy organizing the counter. After a 3rd round of tapping, it stopped. At 3:10 a.m., I switched off the radio. The analog clock on the wall ticked loudly in the sudden silence. I watched the second hand creep toward 3:13. As soon as it hit the mark, I pressed the power button. The classic rock station died in the middle of a guitar solo. The store was plunged into a quiet broken only by the low hum of the drink coolers and the sigh of the wind outside. I stood there, leaning against the counter, counting the seconds in my head. That's when I heard the sound. It was a faint crackle from the radio speakers, even though the unit was off. It grew louder, a sound like dry leaves skittering across pavement, like something struggling to tune into our world. I looked down. The power button was still depressed, the small red LED light completely dark. But the static persisted, swelling and receding. And beneath the noise, I could hear something else. Faint voices. Dozens of them, maybe more, all speaking at once. A chaotic, desperate jumble of words I couldn't decipher. It sounded distant, like a broadcast from across an ocean of static and emptiness. I stared at the radio, my heart hammering. I was too afraid to touch it. The voices intensified. Then, at exactly 3:23 a.m., they cut out. The radio was dead silent. The LED remained dark. Everything was as it should be, except for the cold sweat on my forehead and the fact I was now backed against the cigarette rack, with no memory of moving. I switched the radio back on at 3:24 a.m. Classic rock, just as before. I didn't mention it to Marco the next day. The following 3 nights were uneventful. I started to wonder if I had hallucinated the voices. Maybe the old radio had a faulty capacitor, a weird electrical quirk that only manifested at a certain time. I tried to convince myself that was the logical explanation, even as a deeper part of me knew it was a lie. Marco could tell I was on edge. On my 14th night, he came in a few minutes before his shift ended. Around 10:45 p.m., he was holding a grease-stained paper bag from the diner in town. He placed it on the counter and produced 2 green chili cheeseburgers. "You look like you've seen a ghost," he said. "Thanks. You've been following the rules?" "Every single one." He observed me for a second, then gave a slow nod. "Good. Don't stop. It gets easier after the first month." "What happens after the first month?" "You learn to stop asking why." He left at 11 p.m. on the dot, as he always did. I settled in for another long night. I set the canopy lights to dusk. I confirmed the delivery schedule. I made sure the radio was tuned to the rock station. Everything by the book, everything normal. The westbound traffic began its procession around midnight. I noted the cars in my logbook, a ritual now. 19 in the first hour, 25 in the second, all moving at a crisp 70 miles per hour, none slowing, none stopping at 1:30 a.m. A pickup truck pulled in, coming from the east. A beat-up old Dodge, New Mexico plates, coated in a fine layer of red dust. The driver was young, probably in his late 20s, with a punk rock t-shirt and the exhausted look of someone who hadn't slept for days. He came inside, grabbed a canned espresso from the cooler, and stumbled to the counter. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely get his wallet out. "You doing okay?" I asked. "Yeah, man." "Long haul, where you headed from?" He paused, his eyes flicking to the windows, to the river of headlights flowing west. "California," he said eventually. "Well, Vegas, technically. Left around 9 p.m. I didn't know the geography of the entire Southwest, but I knew Las Vegas was west of us. Far west. If he'd left Vegas at 9 p.m. traveling east, he should have been here hours ago. It was well past 1 in the morning. "That's a 4-hour drive," I said, my voice flat. "I know, took you long enough." He didn't reply. He just slapped a 20 on the counter for the drink, told me to keep the rest, and walked back to his truck. I watched him sit in the driver's seat for a full minute, staring at the westbound traffic as if looking for a gap. Then he pulled out, heading east, his taillights shrinking into the void. I wrote it down in my log. Dodge pickup, eastbound, 1:37 a.m. Trembling, unexplained delay at 2:05 a.m. The tapping started again. 3 sharp raps on the back storeroom door. Same rhythm. I checked the manifest, knowing what it would say. Next delivery, Thursday, 8 a.m. It was Wednesday night. The tapping came again. I stayed put at the front counter. The third set of taps was more forceful, more urgent, and this time I heard another sound underneath it. A scratching, like long fingernails being dragged down the metal door, a slow, deliberate scrape from top to bottom. I cranked up the radio volume and tried to lose myself in the music. At 2:47 a.m., a woman entered. Late 50s, with her silver hair in a neat bun, wearing a New Mexico State University sweatshirt. She looked weary but composed, not frantic like so many of the eastbound travelers. She walked the aisles, chose a bag of jerky and a bottle of water, and brought them to the counter. "Slow night," she commented. "It usually is." She glanced toward the windows at the westbound lane. "Do you ever notice how strange the traffic is going west?" A knot of dread formed in my stomach. Rule 2. "I'm sorry, but that route is closed for surveys," I said mechanically. I wasn't asking for directions. I was asking if you noticed. "I notice a lot of things." She offered a sad smile. "I grew up near here. Left for school in '83, never really looked back. Until tonight. Do you know what happened in '95? I shook my head. A tour bus crashed, 2 miles west of here, carrying a band and their whole crew, 43 people. They were called Mortal Coil, a goth band from LA, on their way to a big show in Denver. Driver lost control, bus rolled, 38 dead, 5 survivors." She paused, watching my reaction. "They say the crash happened at 3:13 a.m. Exactly. The driver's watch was stopped at that time. Every watch on every victim was stopped at 3:13. My throat felt like sandpaper. "That was almost 30 years ago," she continued. "But every year, on the anniversary, October 28th, people report bizarre things on that stretch of road. Phantom lights, voices on their car stereos, vehicles that aren't really there." "Today is October 28th, I said, the words feeling foreign in my mouth. "I know." She paid for her things and left. I pulled out my phone. October 28th. I hadn't even noticed. I'd been so fixated on the nightly routine, on the rules, that the date had completely slipped my mind. The westbound traffic intensified after 3 a.m. I counted 33 cars in just 15 minutes, more than I'd ever seen. They moved in a single, unbroken line, their headlights merging into a solid beam of light. It was impossible to tell where one car ended and the next began. At 3:08 a.m., I walked to the radio. My hand trembled as it hovered over the power button. 5 minutes to 3:13. Rule 5 was to turn it off at exactly 3:13. I could turn it off now. Surely that wouldn't be breaking the rule. It didn't say I had to keep it on until that time, but a strange feeling held me back. I waited. At 3:13 a.m., I killed the power. The static erupted instantly, far louder than before, roaring from the speakers. The power was off, the lead was dark, but the noise was deafening. The voices came through, clearer this time. I could pick out phrases. Can't stop. They're following. 313. We're stuck at 313. Please, somebody help. The front windows began to vibrate, all of them at once. The large panes of glass humming in their frames as if a low-frequency sound wave was hitting the building. I turned toward the westbound lane and I saw them. Headlights, hundreds of them, all moving in a perfectly straight line, but they weren't on the highway. They were driving alongside it, moving through the open desert where no road existed, and they were all turning toward the station. The voices from the radio grew louder, a chorus of desperation. 38 of us. We can't stop. Help us. I gripped the counter, my knees feeling weak as I watched the lights surge closer. They moved with impossible speed, crossing a distance that should have taken minutes in mere seconds. The entire station was shaking now, a violent rattling, and the lights grew blindingly bright. I could see the individual beams, all of them focused on me. Then, at 3:23 a.m., they were gone. The static died. The shaking ceased. The westbound lane was empty. I stood there, gasping for air, clutching the counter. My logbook was on the floor. The radio was silent and dark. I turned it back on at 3:24 a.m., my hand shaking so hard I fumbled with the knob. Classic rock, as if nothing had happened. Some roads don't lead anywhere, they just keep you. I called in sick the next night. Marco's voice on the phone was laced with disappointment, but not shock. He said he'd cover for me and told me to get some sleep. I spent the entire night in my small apartment above the Sundowner Motel, staring at the textured ceiling, listening to the normal sounds of Route 77 and flinching at every passing truck. The second night, I called in again. Marco told me if I missed a third night, I was fired. I showed up. He was there at 10:45 p.m., waiting for me, leaning against his truck in the parking lot. As I pulled in, he walked over to my old Toyota before I'd even cut the engine. "Get out," he said. I did. He looked me up and down, like a mechanic assessing a wreck. "You saw it. How do you know?" "Because everyone sees it around the 2-week mark. That's when it starts testing you, to see if you'll bend the rules." "What is it?" "It doesn't matter what it is. What matters is that you follow the list." That's not a real answer. Marco lit a cigarette, the flame briefly illuminating his tired face. He stared out at the westbound lane. "I've worked this station for 6 years. Mornings, evenings, nights. I've seen it all. The night shift is different. It's always been different. Corporate knows. They don't admit it, but they know. Why do you think the pay is so good? Why do you think they burn through half a dozen people a year for this spot? What happened to the last guy? Quit after 3 weeks. Same as the girl before him, and the guy before her." He flicked his cigarette ash onto the cracked pavement. "The one before that, though, he didn't quit. He vanished. Car in the lot, wallet on the counter, keys in the ignition, just gone." "When?" "October 28th. 2 years ago. That's why the rules exist," Marco went on. "They're not suggestions, Leo. They're not corporate nonsense. They're the only damn thing standing between you and whatever is haunting that highway." "Then why do you stay?" I asked. He gave me a long, hard look. "Same reason you came back tonight. Because the rent is due, and jobs that pay this well are hard to find in this town." He walked to his truck, got in, and drove off. I went inside and began my shift. The first few hours were blessedly uneventful. I kept the lights on dusk, reviewed the delivery manifest, and made sure the radio was playing. The logbook sat on the counter, and I noted the few cars that stopped all eastbound, all driven by people who looked like they'd been chased by demons. At 2:10 a.m., the tapping began. 3 taps, a pause, 3 taps, a pause. 3 taps. I ignored it, just like before. But this time, something else came with it. A muffled voice from the other side of the storeroom door, speaking in time with the taps. Let me in, tap, tap, tap. Let me in, tap, tap, tap. Let me in. I turned up the radio, a Fleetwood Mac song filling the store. The volume mostly drowned out the tapping, but I could still feel it. A low vibration that traveled through the concrete floor and up into my bones. At 2:47 a.m., a semi-truck pulled in, a huge Peterbilt, hauling a long-distance trailer. It came from the east and stopped at the diesel pumps. The driver, a woman in her 30s with a worn-out cap and greasy coveralls, climbed down from the cab. She moved with a certain stiffness, the way people do after being folded into a driver's seat for too long. Coffee hot? She asked as she came inside. Brewed it an hour ago. She poured a large black coffee and brought it to the counter with a pack of Camels. As I rang her up, she glanced out at the westbound lane. Traffic's picking up tonight, she said. It usually does. How many have you seen in the last hour? I checked my logbook. 43. She nodded, as if I'd just confirmed a dark suspicion. I drive this route twice a week. Vegas to Albuquerque, Albuquerque to Vegas. Been doing it 8 years. You know how many westbound cars I normally see this time of night? How many? 5, 10, maybe, if it's a holiday weekend. Never 43. She took a sip of her coffee. You know what's even weirder? I never see a single one of those cars at any of the truck stops. Not in Flagstaff, not in Holbrook, not anywhere. They just drive, and they never arrive. Where do you think they go? That's the million-dollar question. She took out her phone and showed me a picture. It was grainy, shot through a dirty windshield at night, but the image was clear enough. A line of cars on the westbound highway, all of them packed tightly together, headlights blazing, moving in perfect, unnatural formation. Took this last week, about 5 miles west of here. See anything odd? I looked closer. The cars were old, very old. Sedans and coupes from the 80s, maybe early 90s. All of them looked showroom new, despite their age. And in the lead vehicle, I could just make out a shape behind the wheel. It wasn't quite right. Too tall, too thin. What is that? I asked. I wish I knew. She pocketed her phone. My CB has been picking up strange stuff on channel 19 for the past month. Voices always between 3 and 4 a.m. Always the same damn thing. Keep driving. Don't stop for anything. Don't look back. Did you ever respond? Once asked who was on the channel. Got 10 seconds of hissing static. Then a single voice said, Convoy 38. Then it went dead. Does Convoy 38 mean anything to you? I thought of the woman from 2 nights ago. The tour bus crash. 38 dead. Maybe, I said. She paid and left. I watched her big rig pull back onto the eastbound highway, its red lights swallowed by the darkness. At 3:08 a.m., I steeled myself for the ritual. 5 minutes until 3:13. I stared at the radio's power button, the seconds ticking by in my head. The westbound traffic had surged again, a solid, unbroken stream of headlights flowing past the station. At 3:13 a.m. on the dot, I turned off the radio. The static was immediate, but different this time, sharper. The voices resolved into distinct, overlapping phrases, but I could understand them now. We crashed at 3:13. We've been driving since 3:13. We can't stop at 3:13. We're stuck at 3:13. Help us at 3:13. The lights outside brightened, and I looked up to see it happening again. Headlights in the desert, parallel to the road, all turning toward the station. But there were so many more this time. Hundreds, maybe thousands, a celestial highway of lost souls stretching to the horizon. The station began to shake. The windows rattled violently. Bottles and cans on the shelves clattered, some tumbling to the floor, glass shattering. I grabbed the counter to keep my balance. The headlights grew closer, and I could finally make out the vehicles. Old cars, station wagons, a few trucks, all from a bygone era, all in perfect condition. And at the front, leading them all, was a hearse. A long, black, vintage Cadillac hearse, the kind you see in old movies. The windshield was dark, but I could see silhouettes behind it. People, dozens of them, all sitting unnaturally still, all facing forward. The voices on the radio rose in a frantic chorus. We can't stop. 38 of us died. 5 survived. But we're all here now. We are all driving forever. The hearse stopped about 50 feet from the station, as if it had hit an invisible wall. The entire procession halted behind it. The building shook so violently I thought the roof would collapse. Then, something inside the hearse moved. A figure rose from the driver's seat. It was tall, impossibly tall. It pressed a face to the windshield, and I saw a deathly pale mask of skin stretched over a skull, a mouth agape in a permanent, silent scream. The radio voices shrieked. At 3:23 a.m., everything stopped. The lights vanished. The shaking ceased. The radio went silent. I stood amidst the debris of broken glass and spilled snacks, my breath coming in ragged gasps, sweat plastering my shirt to my back. I turned the radio back on at 3:24 a.m. Grateful Dead, trucking, as if mocking me. The westbound lane was completely empty. I spent the next hour cleaning up the mess, my hands shaking uncontrollably. At 5:30 a.m., Marco arrived early. He took one look at the store, at my face, and just nodded. "You're still here," he said. "That's better than most. This is better." He helped me sweep up the last of the glass. We didn't talk about what happened. We didn't mention the rules. We just cleaned, the silence broken only by the broom on the tile, until the sun began to paint the eastern sky in shades of orange and pink, making the world feel sane again. At 6 a.m., I locked up and walked to my car. The westbound lane was already busy with real traffic. Commuters, delivery trucks, RVs, all normal. But I couldn't get the image of the hearse out of my head. I spent the day at the local public library, a small adobe building that smelled of dust and time. The librarian, a kind older woman named Maria, helped me navigate the microfiche archives of the local paper from 1995. It took hours, but I found it. October 28th, 1995. Front page. Tragedy on Highway 77. Tour bus crash claims 38. The photo showed a scene of utter devastation. Twisted metal, shattered glass, the bus on its side in a ditch. The article said it happened at 3:13 a.m. A tour bus carrying a Los Angeles goth rock band, Mortal Coil, and their road crew. The driver apparently lost control. 5 survivors, 38 dead. The impact was so horrific that several victims were never fully recovered from the wreckage, their bodies lost to the desert. There was a list of the deceased. Names of young men and women, musicians, technicians, fans, all on their way to a concert in Denver. All gone. Maria saw me staring at the photo. A terrible, terrible thing, she said softly. The worst this county has ever seen. They had that stretch of road closed for days. Some of the old-timers say the desert drank so much blood that the ground is still stained red if you know where to look. Did they ever figure out why the driver lost control? The official cause was fatigue. The band had been on the road for weeks, but there were always whispers. She leaned in, lowering her voice. Some of the first responders on the scene. They said the driver's eyes were wide open when they found him, like he was awake and saw the whole thing happen but couldn't stop it. What do you mean? I mean, maybe he didn't fall asleep. Maybe something else was driving. She walked away, leaving me with the chilling thought. I made copies and left. The sun was dipping below the horizon as I got back to my motel. I spread the articles on my bed, trying to piece it all together. The band was Mortal Coil. They crashed at 3:13 a.m. The voices I heard said they were stuck at 3:13. The phantom cars I saw were all heading west, back toward where the band came from. My phone buzzed. It was Marco. You coming in tonight? He asked. Yeah, good. Get here at 10:30. We need to talk. He hung up. I arrived at the station at 10:25. Marco's truck was parked near the air pump. He stood beside it, smoking, staring down the westbound lane as if expecting an enemy. You went to the library, he stated as I approached. How did you know? Maria calls me. Anytime a new clerk starts digging into the crash. He dropped his cigarette, grinding it into the asphalt with his boot. You found the article, yeah. Then you know what's out there. I know what happened 30 years ago. I don't know what's happening now. Marco fumbled for another cigarette, his hands shaking slightly. The crash was 2 miles west of here, right at mile marker 94. You know how many cars pass that exact spot every night? Hundreds, thousands, and none of them have a clue they're driving straight through a cemetery. He finally got it lit. The 5 survivors, they all told the same story. Said they heard music just before the crash, coming from inside the bus, but the stereo was off. An old rock song, Season of the Witch by Donovan. They said it just got louder and louder until the driver started screaming, and then the bus veered off the road. The radio in the station plays old rock music. I know, is that why Rule 5 exists? To turn it off at 3:13. You turn it off so you don't hear them broadcasting. The dead ones. They're trying to send a message, trying to tell someone their story. But they can't get the signal through unless you're tuned in at the right time, on the right frequency. He took a long drag. The trouble is, if you listen for too long, you start to hear other things. Suggestions, invitations, and if you accept that invitation, you end up on the westbound road. And then what happens? You join the convoy. That's what happened to the guy who vanished 2 years ago. I found his car, but I also found his journal. The last entry said he heard voices on the radio telling him to drive west, that they needed another driver, that if he just went to mile marker 94, he could help them. Did he go? His car was here. He wasn't, so yeah. I think he went, and I think he's still out there, driving. We stood there in silence, watching a semi blow past. Why do you stay? I asked him again. Because someone has to. Because if this station ever shuts down, there's nothing for 60 miles. And the things haunting that highway, they need an anchor. This place, these rules, they keep it all contained. He looked me dead in the eye. Do you get what I'm saying? Not really. The rules aren't just for your protection, kid. They're for everyone. Every driver who passes through here. Every family on vacation. They're all safe because this station is open and because someone is here following the goddamn rules. You break them, the whole system breaks. And then those things, they can go wherever they want. A heavy weight settled in my stomach. That's why corporate plays dumb. They don't want to be liable. Exactly. He walked me through the shift change, and then he left. I went inside and started my shift. The first few hours were tense, but quiet. Lights on dusk, manifest checked, radio on low. The westbound lane was a steady flow. The eastbound lane, a lonely void. At 1:15 a.m., a vintage muscle car, a Chevy Chevelle, pulled in from the east. The driver was a young guy, maybe 22, with long hair and a Soundgarden shirt. He looked like he'd been awake for a week. He stumbled inside and came right to the counter. "I need to use your phone," he said, his voice trembling. "Rule 6. The store phone is for outgoing calls only. There's a call box about a mile east of here." I handed him a small card with the number and directions. We kept a stack of them. He stared at the card as if it were a death sentence. "I can't go back out there," he whispered. "Why not?" "Because it's following me. Every time I stop, it gets closer. Every time I pull over, I see it in my rearview mirror. Headlights, just one set. Always the same distance behind me. Always closing in. How long has it been following you?" "Since I hit the westbound lane near Vegas, 11 hours ago. I've been driving in circles, trying to shake it, but I can't. It's always there." His voice broke. "Please, I just need to call my sister. To tell her I'm sorry. I should have listened." "Listened to what?" "She said not to drive tonight. Said her grandfather used to live around here and told her that October 28th was a cursed night on this highway." I thought she was being superstitious. I looked past him, through the large glass window. His Chevelle sat at the pump, driver's side door hanging open. And beyond it, about a quarter-mile down the westbound road, I saw a single pair of headlights. They weren't moving. They were just sitting there, waiting. "How did you get off the westbound lane?" I asked. "I didn't. I'm still on it. This station is on it. Everything west of the state line is on it." He gripped the counter, knuckles white. "You don't get it. Once you're on that road at night, you can't get off. The exits are mirages. The turnoffs lead you right back. You just drive and drive, and then you realize you aren't going anywhere. You're just doing laps on the same stretch of haunted asphalt. That's not possible. I've passed this station 6 times tonight. 6 times. And every time I even think about stopping, those headlights get closer." I looked at the headlights again. They were closer now, 1/8 of a mile, maybe. I could make out the shape of the vehicle behind them. A long, black hearse. The kid saw it too. "Oh God," he choked out. "Oh God, it found me." "Get back in your car," I ordered. "Drive east. Don't stop for anything. Just drive till you see the sun." "I can't. I'm on empty." "Then stay here. Stay in the light. Don't go past the edge of the canopy. The headlights surged closer. 100 yards. 75. 50. The hearse stopped right at the edge of the station's property, where the fluorescent glow met the oppressive darkness. I could see the driver now. Tall, too tall. A pale face pressed against the glass. Hollow eyes. A wide, dark mouth. The kid started to cry. "I'm sorry," he sobbed. "I'm so sorry." At 2:03 a.m., the tapping started on the storeroom door. 3 taps. A pause. 3 taps. But the voice was different this time. It was the kid's voice. "Let me in." I looked at him. He was standing right in front of me, frozen in terror. But the voice from the back of the store continued. "Let me in." His lips weren't moving. "Let me in." The kid looked at me, his eyes wide with a primal fear. "That's not me," he whimpered. The hearse outside began to roll forward, crossing the line, entering the perimeter of light, heading straight for us. Then the hearse breached the perimeter of light. The harsh fluorescent glow hit its windshield, and I saw faces pressed against every window. Dozens of them, pale and still, all of them staring at the station, staring at us. "Get away from the windows." I yelled at the kid. He was paralyzed, just staring at the approaching vehicle, tears carving paths through the grime on his face. I grabbed his arm and yanked him toward the back of the store, past the coolers, toward the office. The tapping on the storeroom door was louder now, frantic. The kid's voice, kept repeating its simple, awful request. "Let me in, let me in, let me in." The hearse stopped just 20 feet from the front doors. I could hear its low, rumbling engine through the glass, a vibration that resonated in my chest. Its headlights flooded the store, turning everything into a stark, overexposed nightmare. The driver's door of the hearse creaked open. Something got out. It was tall. So tall it had to stoop to exit a vehicle already larger than normal. Its limbs were elongated, wrong, with joints that bent at unnatural angles. It wore the tattered remains of a black suit, but the clothes hung on its frame like they were draped over a collection of sticks. But the face was the worst part. It might have been human once, but it was stretched, the skin pulled taut over the skull. The mouth was a gaping, unhinged cavity of perfect darkness. No teeth, no tongue, just a void that seemed to swallow the light. It began to walk toward the front doors. "Rule 3, I whispered, the words a desperate prayer. "Stay inside between 2 and 4 a.m. The creature stopped at the glass door, as if it had hit an invisible barrier. It tilted its head, examining the entrance. Then it reached out a long, slender hand and pressed it flat against the glass. The door shuddered in its frame but held. The kid whimpered behind me. "It can't get in," I said, trying to convince myself. "The rules. It can't break the rules. What about the back door?" I spun around. The tapping had stopped. The voice was gone. A heavy silence fell, broken only by the rumble of the hearse and our own ragged breathing. Then I heard it. Footsteps from inside the storeroom, from inside the building. "We locked the back door," I said, my voice barely a whisper. I checked it myself. Then how? I had no answer. The footsteps were slow, deliberate. The sound of a predator that knows its prey is cornered. I grabbed the kid and pulled him down behind the counter. We crouched in the narrow space, listening as the footsteps moved out of the storeroom, through the small office, and into the main part of the store. The tall thing was still at the front door, its hand pressed to the glass. Through a gap between the shelves, I saw more figures spilling out of the hearse. Smaller, human-sized shapes. They moved with a jerky, unnatural gait, like broken marionettes, and they formed a line behind their leader. 38 of them, the exact number from the crash. The footsteps inside stopped. I held my breath. A voice spoke from somewhere near the ceiling. The kid's voice, but wrong. Pitched too high, with a strange, hollow echo. "I know you're here." The real kid beside me began to tremble violently. I clamped my hand over his mouth. "I can smell you," the voice cued. "I can smell your fear, your life." The voice was moving, circling the counter. "You should have let me in. It would have been so much easier." I glanced at my watch. 2:18 a.m. Over an hour until 3:13. Over an hour until a strange radio event. Could we possibly last that long? The kid bit my hand, just hard enough to get my attention. He pointed toward the back hallway, toward the office. His eyes were wild, pleading. He wanted to make a run for it. I shook my head frantically. Rule 3. Stay in the light. Don't go in the back. He pointed again, more insistently this time. Then I saw what he was pointing at. The main circuit breaker panel on the office wall. If the lights went out, would the rules even matter? If the light barrier failed, could the things outside get in? I didn't want to find out. The voice above us let out a low chuckle. "I can wait. I've been waiting 30 years. What's one more hour?" Then it started to sing, quietly at first, but growing louder. Season of the Witch, the song the survivors had heard. The sound was distorted, like multiple voices singing in a discordant, impossible harmony. The kid whimpered, covering his ears. I forced myself to think. The rules were our only defense. The creature couldn't enter. As long as we stayed put, stayed quiet, we were safe. The singing stopped abruptly. "I'm not the one you should be worried about," the voice said. "I'm not the one who is already inside." I looked at the kid. He looked back at me. For a terrifying second, we just stared at each other. And then I saw it. His shadow, cast on the floor by the overhead lights. It was moving. But it wasn't mimicking his movements. It was writhing on its own, the edges blurring, spreading across the linoleum like a pool of black oil. The kid looked down, saw his own shadow twisting and rising, and he let out a choked gasp. "Don't," I hissed. "Don't move. It's a trick." But his shadow continued to grow, to reach, and a shape began to rise from it, a form made of pure darkness. The kid broke. He scrambled to his feet and sprinted for the front doors. For the hearse. For the things waiting in the lot. "No," I screamed, but he was gone. He slammed his shoulder into the glass doors, bursting out into the night. The tall driver's head snapped in his direction. All 38 figures turned in unison. The kid got maybe 3 steps before they swarmed him. I couldn't see what happened next. The headlights were too bright, the figures too numerous, a whirlwind of black cloth and pale limbs. But I heard it. A sound that wasn't a scream. It was the sound an animal makes when it knows it's trapped. When the fight is over, when all that is left is the waiting. It lasted for 10 seconds. Then, silence. The figures parted. The kid was gone. Not a body, not a trace of blood. Just gone, as if he had been erased. The driver looked at me through the glass. And it smiled. Then it turned and walked back to the hearse, its 38 followers trailing behind. They climbed back inside. The door shut. The hearse reversed, pulling back out of the light, and resumed its silent vigil at the edge of the property. I checked my watch. 2:47 a.m., 46 minutes until 3:13. I spent those minutes trying to erase the kid's final moments from my mind. The rules were absolute, I told myself. He broke a rule. He went outside. He went past the light. That's why they took him. That's what I had to believe. At 3:15 a.m., a pickup pulled in from the east. An old Ford, the driver, a woman in her 60s, got out to pump her gas. I watched her, my heart in my throat, waiting for her to notice the hearse. She didn't. She filled her tank, came inside, paid with cash, and left, completely oblivious to the phantom vehicle and its 38 occupants watching from the darkness. Maybe she just couldn't see it. Maybe only certain people can. At 3:08 a.m., I walked to the radio. 5 minutes. The hearse was still there. I could see the driver's silhouette, that stretched face aimed at me. My hands were slick with sweat as I reached for the power button. At 3:13 a.m., I turned off the radio. The static was immediate, but it was different. There were no voices. Just a hurricane of white noise, crackling and hissing, growing louder every second. The building began to shake again, more violently than before. I held onto the counter. The hearse started moving. It rolled forward, into the light, through the perimeter, straight for the doors. The static was deafening now, and I realized it wasn't just coming from the radio. It was coming from everywhere. The walls, the floor, the air itself. A cacophony of dead frequencies. The hearse stopped at the doors. The driver got out. This time, it didn't pause at the threshold. It reached for the handle. I heard the lock click. The rules were failing. The driver pushed the door open and stepped inside. I scrambled backward, toward the office, but I knew it was hopeless. The thing crossed the store in 2 long, impossible strides. It grabbed me by the neck and lifted me clean off the floor. The hand was cold, an absolute absence of life cold that had nothing to do with temperature. I clawed at its fingers, trying to scream, but my lungs wouldn't work. The driver leaned in close, and I saw into its gaping mouth. The darkness wasn't empty. It was full of faces, full of voices, all screaming, crying, begging for help. 38 voices, and one more. The kid's voice, whispering from within the abyss. Let me in, let me in, let me in. He was one of them now. Part of the chorus, part of the curse. At 3:23 a.m., the static stopped. The driver dropped me. I hit the floor, gasping, my throat on fire. When I looked up, the thing was already walking back to the hearse. The 38 figures boarded. The door shut. The hearse reversed, returned to its waiting spot, and the night was quiet again. I lay on the floor, staring at the fluorescent lights, trying to process what just happened. The rules had broken. It had come inside. It had me. But it let me go. Why? At 3:24 a.m., I turned the radio back on. Tom Petty, Running Down a Dream. I didn't call Marco. I didn't call anyone. I just sat behind the counter, rubbing my bruised neck, watching the hearse. At 5 a.m., it vanished. 1 second it was there. The next, it was gone. At 6 a.m., Marco came in. He saw the marks on my neck and his face went pale. It touched you, he said. Yeah, that's never happened. Not in 6 years. Not to anyone who's still here. He came over, gently tilting my head to examine the bruises. How long did it hold you? 10, 15 seconds, and it let you go. Yeah, why? I don't know. Marco pulled out his phone and made a call. He went outside, speaking in a low, urgent tone. When he came back, his face was grim. Someone's coming. A researcher from the university in Albuquerque. She studies this kind of thing. Paranormal energy, residual trauma. She's been tracking this crash for years. She knows about the hearse. She knows what it's become. The researcher, Dr. Eris Thorne, arrived that afternoon. I'd tried to sleep, but every time I closed my eyes, I saw the darkness in the driver's mouth. When Marco called and said she wanted to meet, I drove back. Dr. Thorne was in her late 40s, with an intense, focused energy. She carried a duffel bag overflowing with strange-looking equipment. We sat in the cramped office as she spread a map of Highway 77 on Marco's desk. Red pins dotted the route west of the station. The crash was here, she said, pointing to mile marker 94. Tour bus, October 28th, 1995, 3:13 a.m. 38 dead, 5 survivors. I know all that, I said. What you don't know is what happened afterward. CB operators started logging phantom transmissions on Channel 19. At first, they thought it was atmospheric interference. Then, the transmissions formed words. She handed me a folder of printouts. CB logs from late 95. Keep driving, don't look back. We're stuck at 313. We are convoy 38. Help us. Dr. Thorne opened another file. The survivors all reported the same phenomenon. They heard music, Season of the Witch, playing on the bus's internal PA system, even though it was off. Then the driver started screaming about a single set of headlights that had been tailing them for over 100 miles, never getting closer, never falling back. What were the headlights? I asked. That's the question. She opened a laptop, showing me graphs and charts. I've been monitoring the electromagnetic field on this highway for 3 years. Every October 28th, the energy spikes. Radio waves go haywire. And every year, someone disappears. How many? Officially, 32 disappearances in 30 years. All last seen on the westbound lane between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. on October 28th, all driving alone. She closed the laptop. Unofficially, I think it's closer to 100. Drifters, runaways, people no one misses. Marco lit a cigarette, ignoring the no smoking sign. What's your theory, Doc? The crash created a psychic echo, a powerful one. 38 people dying together, violently, in a moving vehicle. That kind of collective trauma leaves a stain, an imprint on the environment. The M signature of their final moments is burned into this place. Every year, on the anniversary, it plays back. Then why is it getting stronger? I asked, why did it break the rules last night? Dr. Thorne looked at me. Because it's not just a recording anymore. It's evolving. Every person who vanishes on that road, every soul it collects, adds to its power. Their consciousness is absorbed into the collective. The phenomenon feeds. It grows. How do we stop it? We can't destroy it, but we might be able to disconnect it. She opened her duffel bag, pulling out a device that looked like a car battery wired to an array of copper coils. This is a broadband electromagnetic pulse emitter. An EMP, I've tuned it to the specific frequency range the phenomenon broadcasts on. If we can hit it with a strong enough pulse at exactly 3:13 a.m. at the source, we might be able to create a dead zone. Silence the broadcast. Break the loop. For how long? Maybe forever. Maybe for a year. But it's our only shot. Marco crushed his cigarette. What do you need from us? Power and I need to be at the crash site. Mile marker 94. Westbound. That's outside the perimeter, I said. Rule 3. The rules are for hiding. I'm not hiding. I'm fighting back. She gave a grim smile. This thing expects fear. It expects people to run. It won't expect someone to run toward it. We spent the afternoon preparing. Dr. Thorne mounted her EMP device in the bed of Marco's truck. At 10 p.m., we drove out to mile marker 94. There was nothing there. Just desert, highway, and a vast empty sky. The darkness felt tangible here, heavy. You sure this will work? I asked as she calibrated her gear. No, she admitted. But for 3 years, all my research, all the data, it all points to this. It's a frequency. It's a broadcast. If we can jam the signal, we can set them free. At 11:30 p.m., the westbound traffic began. The silent, orderly procession. At midnight, Dr. Thorne's monitors lit up. It's starting, she said. The field is building. We waited. At 2 a.m., I saw it. A mile out. The hearse, moving in the procession. A black queen on a deadly chessboard. It's here, I said. Right on time, Dr. Thorne replied, not looking up from her screens. The hearse passed us, its occupant staring blankly ahead. It's heading for the station, I said. We have 90 minutes, she said. When we trigger the pulse, the entire phenomenon should collapse. But understand, this is uncharted territory. These entities exist within the broadcast. Take that away, and they might just vanish, or they might become something much worse. The traffic grew denser, a solid line of phantom cars. At 3 a.m., alarms shrieked from Dr. Thorne's equipment. Red lights flashed. It's early. The power level is spiking way too fast. She yelled. We have to do it now. You said 3:13. If we wait, the field will be too strong to disrupt. It's now or never. I looked at Marco. He looked at me. Do it, I said. She slammed a covered switch. For a second, nothing. Then every light on her gear died. The truck's engine died. My phone went dead. The westbound traffic froze. Every car stopped dead on the highway. Then the screaming began. A tsunami of sound, from the cars, from the air. Thousands of voices crying out in unison. Dr. Thorne collapsed, clutching her head. Marco yelled something I couldn't hear. And the hearse, a half-mile down the road, began to reverse. It flew backward toward us, tires screaming. The pulse is working. Dr. Thorne shrieked over the noise. It's fighting back. The hearse was almost on us. Marco grabbed the EMP, cranking a dial on its side. The device began to hum, a deep, bone-jarring vibration. The hearse stopped 20 feet away. The driver's door opened. The tall thing got out. But it wasn't alone. All 38 figures poured from the hearse, forming a circle around us. The screaming stopped. The silence was terrifying. The driver tilted its head. A voice came from everywhere at once. You are trying to erase us. I'm trying to free you, Dr. Thorne shouted, her voice shaking. This isn't life. It's a loop. A ghost in the machine. We are not a machine. We are a journey. We were on our way to our show. We just need to keep driving. You never made it to the show, I yelled. You crashed. You're all dead. The figures stirred. Some looked confused. We are still on the road, the driver insisted. That means we are still alive. You're trapped, Dr. Thorne countered. And you're trapping others with you. The kid from last night was there, his face a mask of distorted terror. He looked at me, his lips forming one word: help. The EMP's hum reached a painful crescendo. Now or never. Dr. Thorne screamed. The driver lunged, its long fingers wrapping around my throat again. You broke the rules, it hissed. You belong to us. I felt the cold spreading, my thoughts blurring, the loop beginning. We're driving, can't stop driving. Then Dr. Thorne hit a final button. The world went white. The hum became a physical blow. The driver shrieked and staggered back. The 38 figures began to dissolve, breaking apart into motes of light and drifting into the sky. The driver stood alone, watching its own hands disintegrate, and for one moment, its face changed. The stretched, monstrous features melted away, revealing a tired, middle-aged man. We were so close, he said, his voice now human, full of sorrow. Denver was just a few hours away. I know, Dr. Thorne whispered. Tell our families we tried. They know, she said. They've always known. He nodded, and then he smiled. A real smile. Then he too dissolved into light, rising to join the others. The highway was empty. The hearse was gone. The curse was broken. The westbound lane was finally, blessedly, quiet. We stood there, watching the lights fade among the stars. Then, one by one, the engines of the real cars on the road sputtered back to life. If you enjoyed this story and want to support more tales from the edge of reality, please hit the like button. It really helps the channel, Winds of Thought, reach more people. It costs you nothing, but it means the world to us. Thank you. It's been 3 months since that night. I still work the graveyard shift at the Desert Sun fuel station, but everything is different. The rules are gone. Marco burned the laminated card. No more tapping. No more static. No more 313. Dr. Thorne published her paper. The electromagnetic residual echo is officially neutralized. The 38 souls and the dozens they collected are free. The westbound lane is just a road now. Cars stop. People come in, tired but real, on Negihova Way to somewhere real. We hired a new overnight clerk, a college kid named Sarah. She has no idea what this place used to be. She doesn't know about the rules, the hearse, or the convoy of the dead. And I'll never tell her. Some stories are best left untold. Marco's hands are scarred, a permanent reminder of the night we fought a ghost. Dr. Thorne still visits, taking readings, confirming the silence. She says an echo, once broken, rarely reforms. I asked her what happened to the victims, the ones who joined the convoy. She believes they were freed, too. That when the broadcast ended, their souls were released from the loop. I hope she's right. I still dream about the kid sometimes. I wonder if I could have saved him. I tell myself he broke the rules, that he made his choice. But the question will always haunt me. Last week, a family in a minivan stopped, westbound, heading to Disneyland. The mum bought coffee. Just a few more hours, she said, smiling. They would make it. I knew they would. The road was safe. I watched their taillights fade into the west, toward a future that was waiting for them. And for the first time in a long time, I smiled. My name is Leo. I work the night shift at a gas station in New Mexico. And I'm happy to report it's the most boring job in the world.